And then, with my hair on fire, I mounted the stairs to defeat the Minotaur Lord! Oh, hello. You mustn't forgive me. I'm just being a bit of a braggart. So, in terms of brand new card games, this is not a brand new card game. In terms of very fun, silly card games, this is a very fun, silly card game. This game is called BRAGGART. It is basically available from Spiral Galaxy Games, and it is a barrel of laughs. The idea is that you're basically home for an adventure, you're back into the tavern, and you're boasting about everything that you did or may not have done in the greatest fantasy traditions. So, the idea here is basically you're crafting silly stories of boasting and glory to tell to the other players, who then have a chance to riotously disagree with you and claim that you're actually telling a pack of lies. In the end, whoever can tell the best stories wins the most points, wins the game. Nice and simple and thoroughly ridiculous. This is a very, very quick, very, very simple game. You can see how portable it is. This can clip in a pocket, take anywhere. You'll often find yourself playing several games of this in one sitting because it's just very, very fun and silly and great laughs. It's pretty much accessible to nearly everybody who's heard of various fantasy tropes, and it can be enjoyed without any problems whatsoever. Now, what kind of thing might happen in this game? Well, for example, you might tell the tale that you summoned the 4 elements to vanquish the Queen of Snakes. And then somebody's called you a liar. You didn't summon the 4 elements. You instead fled screaming from the Queen of Snakes. Oh dear, not so good. Well, can it get any better? Well, yes. Atop the ruined citadel, illuminated by flashes of lightning, I ran screaming from the Queen of Snakes. Well, maybe. And then I'm soon to be knighted for my efforts. It tells you a very, very silly story. The idea is there are 4 types of cards in the game that basically let you just describe a story. The 2 most important types are your deed and your foe. This is what you did, this is who you did it against. For example, I accidentally summoned the king himself. Don't know why. I opened a crate and was disturbed to find the king himself. I disguised myself as 3 of the king's wizards. Okay, so whatever deals you do, basically hopefully in you fame and renown. The other 2 types of cards that you can have are the scene cards, which basically tell you where you were and when it was happening, etc. And the result, what happened afterwards. So, for example, astride my mighty steed, I forge weapons of elemental magic for Ugg, Krug and Glug. And now I've been offered the post of King's Champion. Fantastic. Okay, so this by itself would earn me a reasonable amount of points. So, how epic and amazing they are, more points. How pathetic they are, fewer points, fairly obviously. So the scene here is 4 points. It's from 1 to 9. So 4 is okay, 7 is pretty good, 5 is okay, 7 is pretty good. So altogether, that would basically earn me quite a few points. 23 points, great, okay? Of course, the other players don't want me to get away with this. So what they can do is basically they can call me a liar if they have a liar card in their hand. So what they basically do with these cards is that they can basically take away one of my cards and replace them with a similar colour from their own hand. So say, for example, they didn't want me to be forging elemental weapons. They have to get rid of that. They keep this card for themselves. It might be, I pillaged the lair of Ugg, Krug and Glug, which would only be worth 3 points by comparison. Okay? So on your turn, if you can make a boast, you put out whatever cards you have. As long as you've got a red and a green, you can just do it as that if you want to. If you have a blue or a yellow as well, fantastic, that adds the opportunity. Now, once people have finished messing with you, you then basically restore your cards and put them in one place. At the end of a round, depending on who starts first, of course, at the end of a round, you basically compare all the different stories. Whoever has got the most points keeps all their cards from their boast and adds it to their scoring pile. Everybody else only gets to choose one of their cards they've played and keep their best card to take with them to the end of the game. At the end of the game, the cards are basically worth more or less half their value rounded up. So, for example, a 4-point card is worth 2 points at the end, whereas a 3-point card is worth 2 points, a 7-point card is worth 4 points, a 9-point card is worth 5 points. You get the idea. Okay, it just makes it simpler to add up. So, You'll have very, very rounds going round and round and round and round and round and round. You can also have ploy cards. Ploy cards are those kind of like sneaky bend the rule cards, which let you do things like play extra cards, or change the effect of cards, or get extra cards or bonus cards, or this kind of thing. If you can't play on your turn, what you can do is you can go to the bar, which basically just means draw 3 more cards. So in other words, if you might not be able to make a boast this turn, you can always make a boast next turn. So nice and easy, nice and straightforward. Let's take a look at the table view. Okay, here is Braggart in all its beautiful glory. As you can see, the card artwork is hilarious. It is incredibly silly, and this is what makes part of the game so much fun. The idea really is that you can basically build almost, well, not infinite, but so many different combinations, so you will not lose any enjoyment playing this game again and again and again. So on one game you might be possessed by the spirit of a long dead warrior, and then winning a chariot race against hairy raiders from distant lands, and you're probably a better person for it. However, if things go a little bit differently, you could be basically saying, while retained as a bodyguard, I dance to impress an unfortunate trout, and our painting of his exploits hangs above the king's fireplace. Ridiculous. But it's so much fun, and you can get so much silly laughter coming from this game that it is hilarious. You basically might be captured and left at the mercy of Simon the Lonely Ogre. We love Simon. Or it could be an angry looking chicken. And then you will receive a blessing from the god of war. The combinations are really good fun. They're very silly, and they don't get old. You'll basically have like family favourites, personal favourites. This game's 99% playable with older children and smaller children. Whether you basically were going to be in the Queen's bedchamber, you were left at the mercy of ... who knows. But 90% of this game is absolutely playable with children, young and old, and you can always edit it slightly if you so choose. The ploy cards, as I said before, are mostly useful for things like either basically getting extra cards, swapping cards around, getting certain cards. For example, you can basically demand a plot, or demand a scene, or demand a deed or a foe or a result or a scene from somebody else. If they don't have one, well, tough. The other good thing about the liar cards is that there are basic liar cards, but they're also outrageous liar cards, which basically means you can swap 2 cards at once instead of just the 1. Now, in terms of the strategy here, it's a very light strategy game. Obviously, if you can do, you're trying to basically pile as many high point cards at once into a good turn, so that even if people do mess with, let's say, a couple of your cards, the rest of your cards are still going to get through. And remember that the person who makes the highest value boast in each round gets to keep all their cards. So if you can layer together, for example, a 7 and an 8 and a 9 and a 6, and oh dear, your 9 goes, well, you've still got the 7, 8 and 6, which probably means you're still going to be the winner for that round, which means you're still going to get those cards. This might mean that you don't necessarily boast every single turn, even if you have the ability to do so. For example, if you have a 3 point and a 5 point in your hand, wahoo, that's 6 points for your turn. If that's it, if you haven't got any blue, if you haven't got any yellow, if you haven't given it a card, it's probably best to wait that turn and not do anything about it. Then, if you can, use a liar card or something to basically foist those lower power cards on somebody else. Meanwhile, next turn, fantastic. You can basically have stored up some more cards by going to the bar and give yourself more options. The other good thing is, obviously, if you are playing liar cards, you get to steal those higher point cards from somebody else and keep them for yourself for next turn. So it's basically a nice cyclical strategy there. Very light, very silly, great fun. Okay. Let's wrap things up and go to the final thoughts. So let's talk about Braggart. Would you enjoy this game? Well, of course you would. Yes, you would. It's not necessarily the most widely available ones, but I'm sure you can pick it up if you really try to find it. And it will give you lots of pleasure and enjoyment. It is absolutely perfect for a little filler type game when, for example, you're waiting for everyone to arrive at the start of your games evening, or you're at a convention between event and you just want a few minutes, or you're waiting at a bus stop, or you're on a train, or there are hundreds of other different versions when this might be a good place to play this game. This game is a great little game. It's lots of fun. It's silly. It's light-hearted. You have laughter. If you basically walk around the table being played, it'll be bunches of people shouting, yelling, hooting with laughter. There's no real hard feelings if you get your cards swapped around, because you know you can do that to somebody else next turn. You won't lose friends with this. You won't lose your temper over this. You'll just basically be laughing in ridiculous things as your wonderful plan goes awry. Oh my goodness, well, while in the possessed spirit of a long-dead dragonborn heroic warrior, I won a chariot race against, let's have a look, against the necromancer and her armies of the damned, and I was received a blessing from the god of war. Yeah, okay, that's great. But you'll have more fun, for example, if, while under a witch's spell, you danced for an unfortunate trout, and a picture of his exploits is now hung above the king's bedchamber. It's really silly, it's really fun, you'll have loads of fun playing it. I do encourage you to find it, buy it, give it as a present, take it with you to any kind of a gaming event you can, and introduce players to the game, because it's just so much fun. Okay, that's it for today, nice and quick one. So, if you want to get in contact, please subscribe to us, yes please. Please follow us, please like us, please do anything you can to help share the video and get us out there. Get in contact at rogueartistcreations.com. On Facebook, we're rogueartistcreations.com. You can reach us on Twitter at rogueacreations. And you can basically reach me on email at gmfirst@rogueartistcreations.com. Thanks for joining us for this very little quick one. This is a brilliant game. You should definitely own it. And we'll see you for something bigger next time.